This video is brought to you by WorldSoccerShop.com, offering the world's largest selection of authentic jerseys and apparel for both club and country. Hey guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you my first impressions plus on-feet video of the brand new New Balance Visaro Pro. Now inside the box, I do include a boot bag that I would consider to be on the cheaper side, if I'm completely honest with you guys. It's black in color. It has the New Balance Visaro branding in blue on the front, along with that hexagon pattern. You can't actually wear it as a backpack. It's just a boot bag, so you do have the string at the top. When you pull it tight, it seals the top of the bag, which is kind of nice. It's nice that they include extras in general. That's something that they don't necessarily have to include. Other than that, all you're going to find inside the box are, of course, the shoes themselves. So we'll get these guys out of the box really quickly, and we'll take a closer look at one of three brand new high-end New Balance soccer cleats that are finally available to the public. These things have been unofficially unveiled or unofficially visible to the public for quite a long time now, and they're finally available. Essentially, what has happened here is Warrior has turned into New Balance. For those that don't know the backstory here, New Balance has always owned Warrior. They launched them as a soccer brand, and it actually became pretty successful over the last couple of years. They saw that success, decided that New Balance was a more well-established footwear brand in general, and instead of just coming out with new Warrior models, they kind of did a complete rebrand. So what would have been the new Warrior models are now the new New Balance models. That's why all of the Warrior teams, such as Liverpool, probably the most notable one, now wear New Balance kits. So that's the backstory there for those that don't know what's going on. And this is the New Balance, Visaro Pro, which is a very, very interesting shoe. Obviously draws a lot of comparisons to the original Hypervenom Phantom. It has been for quite some time now. We're going to be comparing it directly to the Hypervenom Phantom 1 in today's video, and essentially doing a complete overview of the shoe as far as tech specs go. So the upper, the sole, the stud pattern, the insole, which is kind of interesting, as well as how these things fit and feel, as well as the weight, will all be covered in this video. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around and watch the entire video. If you guys are interested in a pair of these for yourself, you can check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you will find Buy It Now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you will be able to pick these guys up below their normal $180 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below in the description, go ahead and check it out. And with that being said, let's get right into the review. As far as performance is concerned, there are elements of the New Balance Visaro Pro that remind me of Nike, Adidas, as well as Puma. And I'm going to be pointing all of those elements out in the video. Now this is of course the synthetic upper variation of the Visaro Pro. There is a leather model as well, which I will be doing a video on very, very soon, so stay tuned for that. But obviously with the synthetic model, the distinctive characteristic here is the upper, and it looks a lot like Nike skin found on the Hypervenom Phantom 1. People have been making this observation from the get-go with this shoe. When pros first started wearing it, that was what people were talking about. New Balance has completely copied Nike with their upper, and to a certain extent, they have. It is very, very similar in terms of its overall construction. With Nike skin, you have a base layer of mesh with this interesting kind of honeycomb-like pattern, and then you have their Nike skin polyurethane material fused on top with an internal support cage on the inside, where a lot of the actual base layer mesh is exposed. Now with the New Balance Visaro Pro, you have a synthetic material that they're calling Verizone Areaprene. Kind of a complicated, interesting name, but that's what they called it nonetheless. And just like Nike skin, it features a mesh base layer in more of a spaced out honeycomb pattern, and you're going to find some variation in the pattern as well. You have that consistent honeycomb pattern across the lateral side of the shoe, as well as the top of the forefoot, and then right here on the medial side, right at the toe, kind of flowing into the forefoot, is this line pattern where it's actually a little bit more dense and a little bit more compressed, I guess is the best way to put it. And it actually feels a little bit thinner, less padded than the rest of the shoe that has the honeycomb pattern, where you can see it continues here on the midfoot. So it's going to be thin across the entire foot, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be a little bit more thin right in this area of the shoe, where not only does the material compressed a little bit more, it also has a slightly different pattern here on the top of the shoe, which I'm curious to see if that's going to be something that's overly noticeable when you're actually wearing the shoes. Now on the surface, you do have a fused on polyurethane type material that feels pretty much identical, honestly, to what you find on the Hypervenom Phantom 1. It's got that slightly waxy sensation to it where it's smooth, but at the same time there is a slight grippiness to it, which is going to be noticeable when making contact on the ball. And overall, it just feels very good. It's soft, it's flexible, it has that sock-like sensation to it. And like I said, if you didn't know any better, if you were completely blindfolded and I put one of these shoes in both of your hands, you probably wouldn't be able to tell that they were different materials. They feel pretty much the same. So if you were a fan of the original Hypervenom Phantom, which has since been replaced by the Phantom 2 that has a completely different upper, and you want something very similar to this, if you don't just want to buy another pair of Phantoms, maybe the New Balance Visaro Pro is worth a look. Because like I said, it features an upper that is very similar. Where you're going to find a slight difference between these two shoes is the inside. Like I mentioned with the Nike skin here on the Hypervenom Phantom 1, it doesn't have much of a lining material. It's mostly exposed mesh, and you have some thin fused on support cages that feel very good in terms of flexibility and when the shoes are on your feet, but in terms of actual performance, it made for stability issues and rollover issues where the upper just wasn't strong enough to withstand really kind of hard cuts and lateral forces in general. With the New Balance Visaro Pro, the entire inside of the shoe has a solid synthetic suede liner that is a little bit thicker than what you're going to find, or a lot thicker than what you're going to find on the original Hypervenom Phantom, and surely will add a lot of extra stability that you don't get on the Phantom model. So if that's something that you're looking for, that is what you're going to get here with the Visaro Pro. Of course, until I've actually used them myself, I don't want to say that these are for sure 100% more stable than the original Phantom, but just based on the elements that they've included here, this feels a little bit more solid while still maintaining a very similar feel. Now it does have an off-center lacing system, as you guys can see, that is, again, somewhat similar to what you're gonna find on the Hypervenoms, but nothing that's too uncommon as far as soccer cleats go. The tongue itself is made from partially that same material as the rest of the upper, and then the top portion is made from a synthetic leather material. That feels pretty good. I like how it's cut and how it's curved at the very top, so it doesn't get in the way or really feel uncomfortable against the top portion of your foot there. The heel area features an internal plastic heel counter that is pretty solid, honestly. No issues there whatsoever. The heel liner is the same soft synthetic suede as the rest of the lining on the shoe, and it has a nice amount of solid padding here. It's a very firm padding that just feels quite premium, honestly. I'm really impressed with the overall construction here. Nothing is cheap at all. New Balance is a very established footwear brand, and it shows in the quality of the final product of what is their first soccer shoe in a long time. Now, as far as the insole is concerned, hopefully you guys can see the branding there because it is orange on orange. It says New Balance, and then it says Fresh Foam underneath. That is the type of foam that they've used for the insole that is glued down. It's non-removable, which is a bit of a bummer and kind of uncharacteristic of shoes in this particular price range. Normally when you go to a $200 price range, this one's $180. You have insoles that are removable. This one isn't. I think it's because of the softer foam that they've used. I think it would slide around too much if it wasn't glued down, but nonetheless it feels very good. It's one of those insoles that reminds me a lot of what you get from Under Armour with their Micro G insoles, where it feels more like a cushioned running shoe as opposed to kind of firmer foam that you would normally find in the form of insoles in most soccer cleats. So it has more of a bouncy kind of running shoe type level of comfort as opposed to just being firmer foam that isn't necessarily uncomfortable, but doesn't have a noticeably cushioned sensation when you're actually wearing it. You do get that here from the Fresh Foam insole on the New Balance Visaro Pro. Fresh Foam is actually a type of foam that they use for the midsoles on a lot of their running models. Now moving on to the outsole of the shoe, this is what they call their Super Flex sole plate. And the reason why they call it that is because it is relatively flexible. Based on the name, I think you'd expect it to be a little bit more flexible from right out of the box. But you can see that it's almost pre-curved, and that's kind of the general nature of this shoe. It has an interesting shape to it that reminds me a little bit of what you get from Puma with their anatomical shaping. It's not a perfectly rounded toe. Well, it kind of is rounded, but it comes to more of a point, I would say, in the big toe area and then curves around. It's not... It doesn't have that kind of traditional soccer shoe shape. It's something that's a little bit more anatomically formed, and it's very noticeable when you put them on your feet, as well as how they look when you look down when you're wearing the shoes on your feet. So it's just an interesting shoe altogether, and just an interesting construction. So it is relatively flexible. It's a standard TPU plastic construction. You're not going to have really any issues with stiffness. It's pretty flexible out of the box, and after some wear time, I would expect it to be a lot more flexible as well. You do have like I mentioned, the last, that's what they call their Pro Form last. That's why it has kind of an unusual shape in the forefoot and toe box area. And another thing to remember with this particular shoe and the New Balance shoes in general is that they're available in two different width variations. So what I have right here is the regular width. There's also a wide version of this shoe available as well. So if you want something or need something that's going to be a little bit wider, like I said, there is a wide fit version as well, which I will be bringing in for review to compare it to this version to see how big of a difference there actually is when it comes to the width and just general fit of the shoe. As far as the stud pattern is concerned, this reminds me a little bit of what we've seen from Adidas. Obviously, it does have studs that are triangular in shape in the heel. You have triangular studs. Obviously not the same angles as what you're going to find from Adidas, but definitely something very similar. You have the triangular studs running across the lateral side of the forefoot. You have more of a kind of conical hexagon shaped stud, 4 of those right here on the medial side of the forefoot and then one in the middle. And then you're going to find one stud at the very kind of tip of the toe that almost seems out of place. This is almost something you would find on an American football cleat as opposed to a soccer cleat. So I'm curious to see if that's something that might get in the way when you're actually kicking the ball or trying to get under the ball in general, because it is kind of right there in the middle and fairly large for a stud that's positioned at that part of the foot. Normally with a soccer cleat, if you're going to put a stud that far up, it's significantly smaller than this, which as you guys can see, this is almost a full-size stud. So overall, I expect the traction to be pretty interesting. I'm just curious to see how it's going to perform. Obviously very aggressive towards the front of the shoe. You have 3 studs very close to the front, so I expect the grip to be pretty good on firm natural grass playing surfaces. And overall, I'm just really excited to try this shoe out. There's a lot of good things right here. There's nothing about this shoe that feels cheap or like a company that is new to the soccer world, I guess I should say. They feel good, they look pretty decent, and honestly, I'm just really excited to give them a go. So that's pretty much it as far as what you should know regarding the tech specs. And next we'll move on to a quick weigh-in so we can see how lightweight these guys are. As far as weight is concerned, I thought we'd compare the weight of the New Balance Visaro Pro to the Nike Hypervenom Phantom 1 since they are so similar to each other. So keep in mind these are both in brand new condition and both the exact same size 9 US, so this is a very fair comparison. We'll start off with the Phantom 1s, throw them on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 7 ounces exactly, the equivalent of 199 grams, so relatively lightweight. We'll change the scale back to ounces, pull these off, and throw on the New Balance Visaro Pro, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.4 ounces, so 0.4 ounces more, the equivalent of 209 grams. So you're talking about a weight difference of only 10 grams, pretty insignificant, not something that you're really going to notice either in hand and especially not on feet. So again, if you were looking for something that is going to be similar in feel to the Hypervenom Phantom, not only in terms of the upper, but also in terms of the weight of the shoe, the New Balance Visaro Pro is a relatively lightweight option. As far as the appearance of the shoe is concerned, I like the overall look. It's an interesting shape. I like the texture that you can see on the upper from the actual material. I like the New Balance branding. I think the N logo looks pretty good on a pair of soccer shoes. You get the Visaro branding in orange right there, the more traditional New Balance logo right there on the very back, and then New Balance written out here on the medial side. And you're going to find that same New Balance logo right there on the bottom of the shoe as well. The color that they've used, you have this blue color that has somewhat of a metallic finish to it in person, almost like a matte metallic, if that makes any sense. And then you have that bright orange color acting as your accent in the heel liner, the Visaro branding, and the tips of the studs. I'm not crazy about this particular shade of orange, especially the way they've used it in the form of kind of a heel liner accent color. I think if the heel liner would have stayed blue or even white, the shoe would have looked a lot better in my opinion, but this is just the first colorway. I'm sure we're going to see more of these in the future in different colorway variations that may be better or worse. I guess we don't know until they actually come out. But overall, I like the appearance of the shoe, just not crazy about this launch color so far. But let me know your opinions down below in the comment section. Do you like how these look? Why or why not? And with that being said, let's move on to the on-feet portion of the video so we can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit and of course what the sizing is like. All right, so here is a look at the New Balance Visaro Pros on feet. On my left foot, I have the stock blue laces that come with the shoes, and on my right foot, I have a pair of white reflective SR4U replacement laces. If you're interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, be sure to check out the website www.sr4ulaces.com. Find a direct link to that website down below in the description of this video. Now, in terms of how these things fit and feel on feet, they feel really good, but at the same time, they're a little bit unusual. The reason why I say that is they have a very shallow fit. The toe box is very low, which isn't necessarily uncomfortable, but tighter than you might expect from right out of the box. But if it's anything like the first generation Hypervenom Phantom, I expect this synthetic material to stretch ever so slightly, which will make them feel that much more comfortable after a couple hours of wear time. Another aspect of the shoe that's kind of unusual is how it's cut in the heel and top of the foot area. It's cut a little bit short right here. Normally the shoe would come up a little bit higher. It doesn't. And the heel is fairly shallow, meaning that your heel doesn't sit very deep inside of the shoe. With that being said, I'm not having any issues with heel slippage. My foot feels like it's locked in place and secure very, very nicely. So I can't really complain about the shallow fit all that much. But like I said, it does feel a little bit unusual at first, but probably will feel fine after a couple hours of wearing these things and just getting used to how they feel in general. Other than that, the upper feels great. It's soft, it's flexible, it feels comfortable against your foot. You have that nice uniform, pretty much seamless synthetic suede liner on the inside of the shoe, which feels very, very comfortable. And as far as width is concerned, this is the regular width version of the Visaro Pro. Like I mentioned, there is a wide fit version as well, and the regular version feels pretty decently wide in my opinion. These are going to be suitable for most foot types. It is a tighter fitting shoe, so keep that in mind. And if you really do have extremely wide feet, maybe the wide fit version is the way to go. But I think for most people, if you don't normally struggle with the width of your shoes, the regular fit version of the Visaro Pro should be just fine. You got a decent amount of width through the midfoot, and the shape that they've implemented here in the forefoot and toe box area, while it's shallow in terms of just having a tighter fit and just not being super tall, it still does have a decent width for, like I said, the vast majority of foot types out there. As far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, they do run true to size, and I'd recommend going for your normal size in order to achieve the best possible fit. All right, guys, so for my first impressions of the New Balance Visaro Pro, be sure to look out for more content on these on my YouTube channel, as well as the detailed written review on my website that'll get posted in the next couple of weeks once I get some more testing time in these things. In the meantime, if you guys do want to check out the review page, it'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you will find Buy It Now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you will be able to pick these guys up below their normal $180 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below in the description, go ahead and check it out. If you guys have any questions at all regarding the New Balance Visaro Pro, leave them down below in the comment section. I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.